Welcome back to the Sales Show, everyone. My guest today has generated over $1 billion in sales pipeline. He built frameworks used by the best outbound teams on the planet. He trained at Salesforce, LinkedIn, HubSpot, and now he's here to talk about identity. Not tactics, not sequences, the thing underneath all of that. Why who you are determines what you close. Welcome everybody, Justin Michael.
Great to be here. Yeah, excited for this topic. It's a unique one. There's a lot written about it, but sometimes it's a little unique to find it.
You built a billion in pipeline and now you want to talk about identity and being. What broke that open for you?
Yeah, so I've been doing sales since 2001, since I was 21 and I'm 46, so I'm 25 years into the journey. And I started my own consultancy when I turned 40 about 6 years ago. And I worked with hundreds of startups and I worked with, it's got to be over 1,000 executives, one-to-one now, lived all over the world. And what was getting in people's way was things like, imposter syndrome and self-sabotage. And I read The Go-Giver about service, and I found a lot of people were kind of focused on themselves with some of the spiritual work, like their desires and what they want to have happen. And then I found like Maxwell Maltz, psychocybernetics, and I found these interesting distinctions that self-perception and identity and decisions you make deep down about yourself really influence your life and sort of the creation of human ability. And so people like to play around with like affirmations and I am statements and try to reprogram themselves. But in whatever you believe in your heart of hearts, if you don't change that perception internally, it's going to be very hard for the rest of your life to move.
How did it show up? Was there a specific situation or project?
Well, I talk about in my new book, Rewriting the Law of Attraction, about surrender, various moments, like when my father died or I lost custody of my child. Like I had some moments that were really difficult and I had to just kind of surrender. And I woke up the next day and here I was. So I also found that a lot of people are holding their desires in place. If I don't make this amount of money, if I don't achieve this goal, if I don't, there's some hidden standard of what they find. And there's a lot of dissatisfaction and unhappiness in not having it. So for me, I really love the work of Michael A. Singer, who did The Untethered Soul and the Surrender Experiment. And I really just had this metaphor that was forming of like, we're all flowing in this river in these canoes, and people are going upstream in the canoe into the wind. Come on. Here, I've got a motor. I'm motoring into the wind. It's a question of why wouldn't you jump out of the canoe and just float around? And then you find other people are kind of just floating around. And some of it's Eastern philosophy and detachment. Well, where's that river going? Where's that current going? So I came across this concept of pronoia, the opposite of paranoia. The universe is plotting to do you good. And I really started to tap into that. So around 41, I had this great coaching business going, and I thought, I'm just going to try to serve the person in front of me, believe in a higher power, surrender to that, have faith. And I'd been exposed to The Secret and the Law of Attraction. I met Jack Canfield and Rhonda Byrne 20 years ago, and he gave me the Secret DVD. And I just thought, okay, this is an interesting experiment. So I started getting really oriented around helping my prospects as if they were already my clients, really the pay it forward, go giver mentality. I try to turn the prospecting itself into service. I've released a dozen books on 3 different publishers on every area of business you can imagine. And yeah, I just think that you ultimately have to make a decision about who you're going to be or question the fact that you think there's a limitation because there really isn't.
So the shift was not differentiating between this person is not a buyer yet, this person is a buyer, just already starting being 100% in service as if they were committed already.
Yeah, the profit motive tends to destroy a lot of systems, and people feel that. You could call it commission breath. a lack of caring. They feel an ulterior motive. But I worked in sales for 20 years. I worked for Salesforce, LinkedIn. I was great at selling SaaS, AI, automation. I worked up from an inside sales, you know, boiler room environment all the way up to top roles at, companies like Salesforce and LinkedIn, and being a VP and running regions at startup companies with, up to 80 million run rate. And, so I had a lot of success in always finding ways to close the deal, get the meeting, get in front of the client. And it was this grinder mentality. Like I just outworked everyone because I had a tremendous chip on my shoulder because I didn't have a I didn't have a traditional background. So it's kind of like that movie Rudy, where he gets to Notre Dame to play football and he goes through Holy Cross College. And I sort of was always the underdog. And then I kind of got all the way to the top. And around 40 years old, I was being offered CRO roles, being paid, 400, 500 grand a year. And I had this company offer me a lot of money and they wanted to own the rights to my book. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to try this consulting thing out. And it turned to be my third act. I was in the music business, then software, and now coaching and consulting and being an author. And that just turned out to be sort of what I was born to do, you know? I love writing, I love coaching, chop wood, carry water. If I have any secret to my success, I mainly do that. That's mainly what I do. Well, I do
Literally.
a lot of prospecting. Yeah, prospecting to me is client creation. So my thing is I just love to talk to people. Like an ordinary person might talk to 20 people, 50 people, prospector might talk to 100. I'm in constant communication with thousands of people.
What is a
That's
day
like
in
yeah.
prospecting in your life? Like yesterday, what was your prospecting day yesterday?
I mean, I probably sent 200 messages. It's so radically higher than anyone else I've ever seen that sometimes I just wonder if it's volume. Everything's patiently persistent and hand curated. When I'm relaxing, I'm prospecting. When I'm watching, a documentary on Netflix, I'm prospecting. When I'm listening to music, I'm prospecting. I'm just always prospecting or I'm writing. But then as I write
Because you're
things,
sending messages when you're on Netflix.
yeah, like I'm always habit stacking, prospecting. So like it's like a shark. Like when I don't when the shark is sleeping, it's still swimming. So since 2018, I've just radically prospected every day of my life, and I teach people how to do that. And it doesn't mean you have to do it all the time, but I don't call it that. It's just client interaction. Every sale is made in a conversation. So I remember I was sitting somewhere and I was on my phone, I was answering a bunch of messages, and this contact is like, man, you're really a slave to that phone. I was like, oh, I just closed $23,000 right there, right there. I call it chat and grow rich. Because, the phones are good, but when you're doing high-end consulting, everything's happening in DMs. You have a billion people sitting on LinkedIn, always on 24/7 in 5 regions. All you have to do is reach out and talk to them, but none of them want to respond. So I had to develop these interesting pattern interrupt systems, and that allowed me to get thousands of Zoom calls. The stat about the billion is I put out these codices, like these codex guides, and they went super viral on Reddit. And that's kind of a cumulative number of all the people I've trained and helped with the Justin Michael method over the last 6 years.
So, what is the Justin Michael method?
Well, it's interesting because I like to ask ChatGPT that after all this. I would say Earl Nightingale, who wrote The Strangest Secret in the 50s, he said, look at any vertical, any business, and do the opposite, sort of like George Costanza, right? So my stuff is based on pattern interrupts, A/B testing, neurolinguistic programming, behavioral psychology, game theory, social dynamics. And I just tested it like crazy. Like around 37, I got a role in Silicon Valley and I helped grow the top funnel for 100 SaaS companies at once. It's called Outbound Works. We raised a few million and I sent 5 million emails. I've done 20,000 hours on the phone. I've been on LinkedIn for 15 years. I've had it shut down 7 times. I've broken every part of that thing testing. And so I have a counterintuitive set of techniques for all the modalities of client acquisition. Everything I'm doing is indirect and high status. So I cold call in a different manner. I email differently. I speak differently. I DM differently. And I have sort of like facets on a diamond or razors on a blade. I have come up with these ways of differentiating the means of the communication. So it's not really affected by AI. AI is just making communication worse. We're getting all these slop messages all day.
Are you
So
using AI?
I do. I use it to get out of the white space. I use it for synthesis, ideating, opinion. I talk to it, but like ultimately, it can't be as effective as someone that has acumen and gravitas and bravery talking to powerful people because it always has a little bit of a taste problem. It's a bit synthetic. It just feels you can always kind of tell when the AI is in the loop. So it's dangerous for DM flows, right? If someone's considering to spend 25 grand or 50 grand on you and they feel that you have a bot or a VA offshore, it's a bit of a buzzkill, you know?
And when you say DM, is that WhatsApp, Telegram, Facebook, Instagram, all of that?
Those can be really good for life coaches. I do a lot of like really hardcore business coaching, helping people build consultancies and build up, technology ventures. So for me, I'm primarily stood up on LinkedIn, but the
LinkedIn.
flows that I teach, they work on any channel. I'll use WhatsApp a lot, um, sometimes text messages. I know how to cold call. I do a lot of cold calling. I encourage my clients to, but it all depends on the frame and the status and how it comes off because I constantly contact CROs, board members, VCs, and they're just easy to catch in between things with a communication on LinkedIn. It's way easier than trying to go after them by phone, usually.
And of course, now everybody wants to hear, okay, how do you get their attention? How do you start a conversation?
Well, I'm really bold. I send George Clooney gifts. I crack jokes. I point
George
out,
Clooney gifts.
yeah, that's one way. I basically will look at their LinkedIn profile. They're like, oh, I can just run Claude and I can get the personalization. I'm like, yeah, you can, but you miss the fact that they're an Enneagram type this or Myers-Briggs or here's their human design. Like there's all this weird stuff on executive profiles that machines don't see, but I see them. What is a Six Sigma green belt? Oh, that's interesting. You helped Amnesty International. I used to work for Sean Parker. I worked with them. Like I find things in shared experience that a computer couldn't see. It's very human. It looks like a text message. I won't use any grammar. I won't use the first name. They're sitting there getting these perfect, grammatically correct, personalized messages, and then like this records graduate happens, and that's my message. So I do all these purple cow type pattern interrupt, provocative, staccato little breaks, and that's been really effective. I do voice drops, I do video drops, I use a lot of visual prospecting, I send Venn diagrams, and that I have techniques for all those that are kind of dealing with the old brain
It's
and the new brain. It's
it
it's
sounds like you're
really
having
unique.
fun.
Yeah, it is fun to do. I mean, I've been at this for geez, like I started really in 2017, really going at it. I started learning all about it in 2011. But what I was really shocked by is how much of client acquisition and hunting and sales is not aligned with the human brain. There's probably three, five systems in the brain, but there's really like an old system that's reactive. The sort of the limbic system and the amygdala, the croc brain, as it were. And then there's the neocortex, and it's like 200,000 years old. And so when you interrupt someone on the phone, it triggers the old brain, fight or flight, and it's like walking up on a horse. But the problem with all the email and digital communication is it's hitting the front of the brain. It's very conservative. So you have to be really bold in direct messages and with emails, and you have to be really social Aikido or Tai Chi when you interrupt strangers on phones, and you kind of have to know the difference. And so visuals are the piece that are most remarkable because the human brain and eyes can't see text. It's very hard to read. This is an alien activity. Remember tracing letters in fifth in when you were 5 years old? When you get tired at night, the all these pictograms we read blurs, but you can go out and drive and get some food and look at the stars and you're fine. It turns out that visuals are processed 60,000 times faster than words. And then 90% of retention is pictures. So the reason any retention happens is that when I say coffee, your brain thinks of a cup of coffee.
I can smell it. Yeah.
You can smell it, you can feel it, right? So I'm actually just sending the pictures, like Venn diagrams, product marketing. Because the weird thing of the internet, right, is it's all websites with SEO and AEO and AGO, all this stuff with ALMs, full of pictures. But then, like when we email people to get business, we send these little marching ant things. So like Vidyard figured this out, and Wisty and all these video companies. But the problem with those is, if I start sending you video clips, you're like, you hit the link, and it's like, "Hey, Simon," and there's the video, and you're like, "Ooh, don't click that link."
Hmm.
But inside LinkedIn, you can drop a video that plays in line, and it's really powerful because, or you can leave the voice note, that little blue line on LinkedIn. It's like, what is that? And you can play it, and people just don't use it, or
Nobody uses that.
nobody uses it.
It's also a little
It
bit
is a
hidden.
pattern
It's
interrupt.
only on the phone. So if you're wondering where is
Yes,
it, if you use LinkedIn on your phone, it's down there on the right. There's this little microphone, right? And if you hit it, you can
totally.
leave a voice note.
Yeah, so that's the kind of thing that's so subtle. But I learned this growing up in the 1980s in Southern California, and people would come by my house, little residential neighborhood, they knock on the door and they have a vacuum cleaner for $1,000, real money, and then a set of knives, and then religious people and politicians, and they'd all come by, and pretty much the people that go door to door figure this stuff out. So I pull a lot of the techniques from those kind of environments, and humor, creativity, visuals, all five senses, really powerful. So that's part of it. There's a lot of tactics, but if you have negative thinking and you don't believe that you can make 300 grand or 500 grand or a million a year, you're just not going to do it.
Back to
You're not going
identity.
to,
So
yeah.
let's go back to identity. But first, I think what resonates with me is that you are having fun. You keep having fun doing this, and that's why you're doing it so long and so well, while hundreds of your competitors
Yep.
gave up. What's on the cap? Black sheep.
It says black sheep. Yeah. So I do. I have a lot of fun. When I started the business, I photoshopped the Terminator on my face. I put a Terminator here with the blood and the whole thing. And some famous guys like, Justin, you got to change your LinkedIn profile. Like that's a career limiting move. Like you're going to get canceled. And I kept it. And I wrote this book, Tech Powered Sales. And my co-author, Tony, who's like in his 50s now, he photoshopped the robot. And we did this book and it sold a ton of copies. We generated millions of dollars on this. It's just taking risks like that. And I was known as the sales Borg, like the seller cyborg, and I'm older now. And I had a Discord channel with 3,000 people in it, and I would do cold calling. And they would all watch me cold call and they would hear the rejection, and it was just fun. Every Friday I'd cold call. And then I'd have people like Josh Brown show up and listen to the cold calls. So there's been a lot of creativity, a lot of ingenuity, and a lot of graft. But I started writing all the books because my father was a linguistics PhD, and I just have like a real gift to be able to generate long form content and really just sit into the edits for 50 hours. I used to produce music and you would spend about 100 hours for a 3-minute song. It's nuts.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean it's nuts. So like that level of care when I craft one of these books, they're very short, like 45K words, about half the length, even a third the length. But I sit in there for like 50 hours obsessing on the synthesis, the edits, the citations, the styles. And I just keep mulling on that thing until it's polished like a diamond, like Michelangelo just carving the angel out of the marble. So people read my stuff and they're like, it's a mile a minute. There's like, 200 books referenced. Like it's dense and wild, but it all flows. And so I love people like Nicholas Taleb and Malcolm Gladwell. And I've always wanted to bring that to business. And I finally have some books now that are outside of sales and B2B, like The Frame, which is on frame psychology, more of a Robert Greene style. And then this new one, which is just like The Alchemist, it's spiritual poetry. It's totally out there, like Phoenix and metaphysics, essentially.
So let's go to identity. Why should we look at our own identity when doing sales?
Well, I think it's really important to understand the limitless nature of your being, that there's a higher power or there's a quantum field or there's some greater energy that connects us, no matter what school of thought you're from. And you have to understand that if anyone can be a millionaire, you can. If anyone can close 6 and 7 figure deals, you can. There's nothing stopping you from calling up the CEO of a Fortune 500. Even hearing that, people go, ooh, and they grimace. They're afraid of public speaking, cold calls, and they don't like it, and they don't believe it works. And they really, in their heart of hearts, don't think they can actually be a
Hmm.
top salesperson. Even when they say it, I meet with hundreds of these folks, and they're like, I want to make $1 million. I'm like, how much do you make? 100 grand. Okay, that's great. What are you doing to get to the million? And they're not really taking the action because in their heart of hearts, they don't believe it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to the top of this industry. I moved from Santa Barbara to San Francisco to St. Louis to New York to Seattle and back, and then over the ocean because I did whatever it takes. I saw this Will Smith interview where he's like, if we're both on the treadmill and we're running, you'll die on your treadmill. I did anything to get ahead, and that wasn't the way. I have a lot of scars and war stories of that 20 years I spent working for other people. And frankly, I was pretty terrified when I went on my own because I didn't know how to do it. Like I have a client talks about it like it's the unknown unknown. It's an irrational fear, like a fear of the dark.
When was that?
That was 6 years ago when I turned
Mm.
40, and everyone
Okay.
around me was like, sit on the board. I had like six job offers. I was in demand. And this was a funny economy because we had the tailwind and printing of money and no interest rates. So like we were all kind of feel like first it was like a freak out moment. They were cutting everything, but then there was this weird surge because of the fake economy. This was a great time to start it. And for the first 4 or 5 months, I only closed maybe 9, 10 grand. And I really thought like, hey, maybe I made a bad decision here. I should go back to corporate. And then around the fifth month, I did 100K a month. And I thought, whoa, I should have been doing this
Way earlier.
always on the side
Yeah.
for the last 15 years?
What's the lesson in here for the listeners?
Well, I think one lesson is there's 500 million small businesses. 40% of employees in North America side hustle. So in today's cost of living, I mean, I can't change the system. It would behoove you to have an LLC or an S corp or a PVYT or an LTD or whatever it is in your country. Listening, I work with people all over the world. You are a razor with many blades. There's many aspects of your expertise. If you're listening to this and you're 30 or 35, you're 40 or 45, you have so many ways you can make money you just don't realize. And a lot of that is an expertise, knowledge transfer type business, coaching, training. So I help people find that. So I have a book called Seven Figure Formula that explores fractionality, side hustles, consulting, this type of thing. Do that now, write a book now, monetize now, because one day you'll age out and you'll have to get to it anyway. So this is one lesson. I know all the millionaires work for themselves is a weird thing I always heard, millionaire next door. So, but I was just, loyal to the company and didn't want to moonlight. My first book, combo prospecting, I'm just a case study. I never knew I'd be an author or a coach. And so that's another thing about the identity. Like when I was 16 years old, I wanted to have a Grammy Award. And then when I was, 21 years old, I just wanted to get to Salesforce. That would be awesome. And then I just wanted to become a CRO. But if you take the linear arc of your goals, and I go back to being a 19-year-old kid and playing guitar and saying, hey, you're going to be a famous B2B author and coach, I'd be like, I don't want to do that. I want a Grammy Award. So the silly mentality of goals in life is you never know who you're going to be in the next act. So you kind of have to like let go and let God and give it up to the universe and the hows of the domain of the universe. You have to love yourself, believe in yourself, and that's the essence of all sales. And I know Grant Cardone says that, enthusiasm, I am sold myself, but he's not wrong because people close their eyes and they disrespect themselves, they abuse themselves, they're hard on themselves. And like, I push myself so hard. I'm like, that energy is what's limiting you, not pushing you ahead. It's a paradox.
Well, let's stay with this paradox. On one side is do the reps, right? You say you're a shark, you're moving, there's volume in there. But on the other side, you say, yeah, but I'm not doing anything. I'm being a shark. I'm not doing this. So what how do you see this paradox of doing and being?
I think like the sharkiness has gone down for me. It's more like flow state. It's more that because I pick something I love, I'll do it a lot. Like someone that loves producing music will sit in the studio finding the sound of the drums for like hours. Or when you're writing, you'll sit and you'll just rewrite the chapter 100 times, something like that, like Stephen King. Why? So there's like the grindy, pushing, straining. And like athletics, that's good. You're in the gym, you're lifting, you're pushing. So there's like, there is a physical universe and there is friction that can be good. But that's also something that can get you to burnout. So there's real collateral damage in muscling it. You have to find your God-given gift and then find a way to monetize against that. Then it doesn't really feel like working. And then if you really ramp up the work, it's flow. You're almost like a child playing and painting and having fun, you know, playing make-believe Star Wars toys or something. So that's how it feels to me. It's not all perfect. Like it's not all beer and Skittles, as my Australian client said. But I've been a lot happier and I've had a lot more fun. And well, and I think people who are listening to this who have, some people might have discipline issues. That wasn't my problem. I always worked the hardest, but no, I outworked everyone, but I couldn't get the money to come. Like I'd cap out around 300K, 400K, 275. I couldn't get to that seven-figure mark ever. I didn't see a path. And then I found consulting, and consulting is 1 trillion a year with a T. 1 trillion a year. And top consultants, something about like 1% of top consultants make 1.5 million a year and 5% make a million a year. I mean, it's a very lucrative profession. And that's what's been cool getting into that and then helping a lot of other people have the realizations that I just shared in the last half hour.
Yes. Now, AI is changing some aspects of sales, and some also are maybe overstated. What's your take? How will sales look like in 3 years?
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I think the realm I'm in of enterprise sales and strategic will stay valid because there'll be a lot of like Jarvis style Iron Man exoskeleton. Like if you're smart and you can leverage it, you can get to a point of view really fast, but you still need taste. Because if you're inexperienced in business and you show up in front of a CFO or CEO with a point of view that's very sterile and you don't really understand it, they can test you and they can throw you off with millions of permutations. So I always compare this to Photoshop. I took a photography class in middle school with the f-stops and did darkroom photography, and like I pretty much knew the mechanics of the silver of how old-timey photographs work, Nikon, Canon camera, right? So when I got into Photoshop, I knew what a rubber stamp was or, unsharp mask. I knew the analog to the digital. And then when I got in the music business, I knew all the way back to the Beatles and how they mic'd, right? I understood the science, the foundation of what it was. Problem now is if you try to fake out some CXOs with an AI bot, you don't really know what you prompted for. You have to understand the underlying acumen, the business case, the P&L, the fundamentals of how businesses work. It's not that complicated, so that you have credibility and authority and you can convince powerful people to take risks, to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, not millions of dollars. So I think we're going to be really safe in the coaching realm because I think that's still not taught. It's still an apprenticeship. You still have to kind of have a mentor to really learn the craft of high ticket consulting and high ticket sales. And weirdly, I've been in almost higher demand now because 75% of the workforce is under 44. They're millennial Gen Z. They haven't ever really cold called or done these big deals. They don't know who all these people are that wrote all the good books. The knowledge is fading. They don't know who Mike Bosworth is or solution selling or, name someone. And that's fine. And they're really hungry to learn it. And everything's kind of become transactional for them, like Hormozy. Like it's just stick figures and you just do offers and it's leads and it's not how it works. People don't trust the AI right now to do these big transactions. Like if you're gonna go spend 100 grand right now, you'll want to talk to me and check every box. Like even if the AI says something, and then it can hallucinate. That's the other fun part. So that's my theory. It's contrarian for sure.
Mhm. So you got now a meeting because you've used much more compelling and very different ways of starting the conversation. Now you got a meeting with the CEO. How do you prepare for that meeting?
Well, a lot of people prepare a point of view. I will research their profile, look at Google Alerts, look a little bit of the company, might do some AI prompts. But ultimately, if your goal is to show up to that meeting and talk, you're toast. The most powerful thing you can do is show up curious. And I have a series of frameworks, questioning frameworks, not unlike Spin, but my own. And basically, like that Dale Carnegie book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, the best job interview. When I talk to people, I'm like a church mouse. I'm dead quiet.
The
What's your
church
goal?
mouse.
Oh, what's driving the goal? Interesting. Oh, what have you tried? I can get people to talk for 45 minutes straight. I barely say a word. And then around minute 45, there's a polarity shift because no one's heard them out. And I was on the road for so long as an AE, and I had these CEOs, and they would fly in super clothes, and they come in with a demo in the slides, an hour, 15 minutes, and they blaring. And I'm like, the prospect never talked once, and we'd always lose that deal. Or we'd get it some other aggressive way through a channel or partner, you know? So my goal for a first CXO meeting is just to sit and be the most curious person on the planet, legit, take notes, be really present, really listen, really trying to be a detective, Columbo, get to the bottom of it. These are ideas from 1,000 years ago. That's what's funny. The best things in life are free. The methods to make millions are free and obvious and the same that they were 100 years. The human brain is identical 100 years ago and 100 years from now. So I'm really big on the classics. Like I'm known for writing about tech stack optimization and all the sophisticated prompting, but because I base it in heuristics, linguistics, neuroscience, that is a neoclassical understanding. Like if you look at Robert Cialdini, the book Influence, Science and Practice, like just read that and everything starts to make sense what's broken. Because if you violate those principles of influence, you're not going to do very well with humans, selling them or persuading them. So
Which one
yeah,
is your favorite book of Robert Cialdini?
the one he wrote, I mean, it's like a textbook, is Influence, Science and Practice. He has one called Persuasion, which is a cool follow-up. But I love psychologists like Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Slow. There's a book called The Science of Selling by David Hoffold that is amazing as well. Because the best way to get good with people and good at these sciences and arts is just understand the human brain, understand psychology, understand what makes people tick. Because then you go to the sales books and the methodologies and the go-to-market strategies and like, wow, why would I do things that don't make sense for neuroscience? Like that's already, I mean, it's so funny when people write an email and say, I'd love to meet with you. I'm like, you'd love to make a commission? Like you want to tell a stranger you'd love to meet with them? That's not the word. It's creepy. It's too much. Right? So a lot of my innovations are down to the granular word level, tonality, which words to use, what's safe to say to keep the brain in a state of trust.
And that will be the ultimate differentiation, right? In an age of AI, when there is so much slop going around, who will you trust?
It's true. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm bullish on technology, and I think, good people with tech can go far. But I think the skill set that I've developed and the method that I teach now is anti-fragile and will stand the test of time. I had a minute there where I was like, oh, I was worried because people are like, yeah, we're feeding all your books to the AI and it's writing emails and it's just doing everything you teach. I'm like, great, let me see an email. Look at the email. Yeah, that's not the email.
Of
It's
course.
sort of like it. It's short, yeah, and it has like a Justin Michael-esque vibe, but it's full of M dashes and weird vanilla things and tropes and little things you always see. And, that
And
executive
by
is
the
not going.
time the machine can do that, you have moved forward because if pattern interrupting and staying fresh and staying relevant is the process, the content will be totally different by the time the machine gets it.
Well, that's a really astute observation because I kind of pioneered making communication look like text messages, and then companies like Lavender and SalesLoft tested it and proved like a email under 50 words converts 60% higher. And people are like, what are you going to do when everyone adopts the system and is writing these short emails and using these heuristics? I was like, I'll write a 2,000 word email. Like, I'll just do the opposite again. Because what happens in human systems is everyone sort of winner takes all as to one technique. So when people call on the phone, they say, "Did I catch you at a bad time? Can I get 30 seconds of your time? This is a cold call, want to roll the dice." And I would just say, Simon Severino, your full name. And that is like, because no one does that.
True.
And it's really interesting, especially if you get hard names to pronounce, like, Susie Kowalczyk. And they go, Kowalczyk, but they forget that you're cold calling. So even that simple idea of using the full name, the most beautiful sound of the human language. Um, yeah, and what's happened in the last 6 years is one, people forget what I did, which is fine. And I think of like Eddie Van Halen, he tapped with two hands on the guitar and was famous for it, but there's other people who did that before him, but he's still known for that. So like the idea of sending Venn diagrams, that came from me. The idea of the thoughts bump, sending millions of thought bumps. I was the first person to do that in the world. And at those scales. And people forget that. So I met with a rep recently and it was like maybe 27, looked at all my materials, like, wow, looks like a lot of other stuff. I was like, yeah, I did this all in 2016, 2015. It's funny. You can't patent this stuff.
That's why in the end people can steal your strategy. Whoever is listening, you have a strategy, you think you have it, you have to keep it closed and protected. In reality, if they take your strategy, they're not taking much because the execution makes the difference.
Yeah, like I open source everything, and Hormozy did have a smart quote. He said, "Give away all the secrets and sell the implementation." And I believe that, like Radiohead, just give away the music, and then your fans will support you. So what I found is people come to me now because they want to do what I did. They want not just the tactics, they want to understand, how do I go from making 45 grand to President's Club and earning $1 million a year? How do I launch a consultancy but make 50 grand a month, 100 grand a month? How do I make $1 million a year to building a consultant business? And there's so much that goes into that, from mindset to skill set to technique to style. And there's so many different books and systems and formulas that it actually takes. And so I kind of just run mentorships and apprenticeships, and I have incredible clients at this time, people that have multiple exits, people that have made over 750K a year, $1 million a year. It's not always about the wealth, like Jim Rohn says, it's the person you become by reaching that. But I deal with very elite people. And the beauty is, like, the last three clients were CXOs that I worked with, and all three of them did over 50K a month, and one did 100K in the first 90 days. So, like, it is working, but I wouldn't say it's a book or a formula or a template. It's me sitting with them for 90 days, watching what they're doing and training and coaching and molding and helping them be the best seller they can be. Because the best method is your God-given method, the way you sell. Some people are introverted, some people love all the prompting, some people love the spreadsheets. So it's
Yeah,
kind of like
what if
Moneyball.
somebody's more
Yeah.
introverted?
Well, the thing is, I learned this from baseball, from American baseball. There's like all sorts of different ways to be awesome in the major league. You can be a pitcher, you can be a first baseman, you can be like the slugger, like Barry Bonds hitting the grand slams. Like, there's all sorts of animals in the jungle. What happens is, sometimes, "Oh, I'm going to be a gap seller, I'm going to do challenger sale," and they take a system and they sort of project onto themselves using the system. But the most powerful system on earth is the Simon Severino system, because you've been on the planet for decades and developed all sorts of expertise. And if you could tap into the natural way you sell, right? Some people love the phone. Some people don't need any phone at all. It's all DM. Some people do these elaborate email campaigns and spin up 10 different email addresses, and it works. And it's so funny because when someone's passionate and they love it, like we said earlier, they win. Like, I'm getting sales off email. Oh, what's that like for you? Well, I have 15 domains and I warm up for 6 weeks and I write clay tables and I have Claude Code and I have Open Claude. I was like, that would be hell for me. But they love it, and so it works. I'll call Simon on his phone while you go spend 25 hours figuring out all that.
If you find my mobile phone number, how do you find my
Yeah,
number?
well, it's interesting. 20% of the population picks up a phone worldwide. In the global databases like ZoomInfo, 7% of the data pool are cell phones. 50% of picking up a phone in the 20% is from IVRs, human navigated dials, and basically phone trees and message machines. So there are now systems like TitanX that will take a list and figure out who's open to be called and which ones are prioritized. And if you're not on that list, I might not call you. I might see that your phone number is just not available in that data, and I may pick a different channel because I know you answer on email or you have a higher propensity to answer on LinkedIn. And I wrote a book called Cold Call Algo all about this question. I mean, if I know you don't answer the phone, why am I calling you?
So you have always multi-threading strategies for yourself.
Yep. And back to that door knocking thing, I always leave voicemails and voice drops and get a humanity into it because that tone and the sound of the human voice builds a lot of trust, gives a lot of credibility, and it really differentiates in a world where people are just trying to impress you with what their AI personalized.
What's next for you?
Well, now I'm helping a lot of clients write books, and I've been really, going deep into ontology and being, and I don't know because I'm just flowing with the river. I'm not trying to push my consultancy to have 25, 35 clients at once or make, 2 million bucks a year or go crazy with that. Just health, because health is wealth and quality of life and serving the person in front of me. And, I run a pretty calm business with people I love to work with and just powerfully serving great clients and getting my books out there and my methods out there slowly but surely toward my 50th birthday, which will be 2030. So I'm less goal oriented, and people come to me like, you could be a YouTube star, you could scale it up, you could be the next Hormozy, like you have the vibe for that. I'm kind of like, but things are peaceful and smooth. So
We're the same age,
uh,
46. And I'm the same. People ask me, what's your goal? I say, having fun, not dying.
yeah, enjoying life and staying healthy and giving back to other people and helping the next generation actually achieve these things. My high in life is the results of my clients. When someone comes to me and they say, hey, I just hit 100K in a month, or I just did my first 10K deal, or it's really clicking for me. I experienced that, that awe, that wonder, that I relive what it was like to be terrified and have to figure it out from like my first call at Salesforce when I was 31, or the first time I was able to win the ladder on the phone. So I kind of live vicariously through that continuum. And I'm a teacher, essentially. And it's funny because back in second grade, as a kid, I was probably 9 years old, maybe. And that's what the teachers say. You're going to be a teacher someday. And that's what's funny. Like I teach people skills and I sit with them and I teach them things and I teach effectively, which is pedagogy, adult learning. And these adults learn it and then they win. And it's so cool. So that's like this one-to-one model of coaching is very hard. It's very slow. There's a lot of ups and downs, but it's so rewarding because you really can transform lives, you know?
And it's not just the knowledge from the different disciplines that you study that you bring in. I think it's also the energy, right? You do live calling in front of them. So you're actually sharing the energy and the momentum.
Yeah, I mean, people have seen me as an operator, someone who did the thing. I came up hard. I had tough roles, and I've walked a mile in their shoes. And I think people like it because it's practical and they can apply it. But I always have like a philosophical place behind it of why it exists. And they develop a style. I don't know, like I feel kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi, like I just trained Jedi because people find me when they want to transform, when they want to become the best at what they're doing. And so that pursuit of the excellence itself is what drives them ultimately. And yeah, it's just really unique when you go off to do consulting. It seems easy, but it's such a red ocean and so commoditized. There's 11,000 books a day. And
Yeah.
when you write a book and you put it out there, you're like, wow, I sold 569 copies. Even when you're on a major publisher, so to go sell 30,000 is something. 10,000 is something. So a lot of things that seem easy in life, like sales or music, like yeah, it's pretty easy to be good at music. It's pretty easy to be good at sales. But to be great in the top 1% on the planet, to earn millions doing it, to do it at an elite level, to be so good they can't ignore you, takes a ton of skill. And that's where, effective coaching comes in. And I probably wrote too many books. It's kind of like a disease. I've heard some authors call it that, but it's been fun because usually people read 2 or 3 of my books, watch some podcasts like this, and then meet with me a couple of times, vet me with 5 people, back channel all these different contacts, and that is ultimately how I'm getting business.
And when you say you're teaching consultants, what can be done by Cloud Code in terms of consulting in a few years? And which part will never be done by AI?
Well, I think there's things like when you have a tough client or a hard situation, someone wants a refund, something's not going well. It's not, the program isn't succeeding. Well, the AI thinks it is, it's delivering the excellence, but you got to troubleshoot. So the error factor and the human factor of mistakes, problems, the politics in their business, like they have tough clients. And that's where real world experience beats the flight simulator. Ultimately, it will probably have enough moves. It's like chess, it'll know. But I think people will be nostalgic. So I'll give you 2 examples. One, I want to learn how to ski moguls in the Swiss Alps. I can get a Musk bot. It's safer. It's going to be better instruction. I'm going to go with a robot. It's going to teach me to ski on the Alps 10 years from now. But like Simon skis, I'd rather just kind of meet Simon because he's a human. So almost like a record player, I might choose you for the nostalgia of it. So a lot of times people pick me over just talking to Claude because I've done it. And they really want the stories and the heart and the passion, the understanding of a person that walked a mile in their shoes and is, a little bit farther up the mountain on something they're trying to build. Right. So that's why, like, yeah, it'll eliminate the masses. We'll do vocal coaching online or sales coaching online. But for some of these elite categories, you're going to want to find a very special person that resonates that can mentor you. Like, you could be personally trained by a Muskbot, but wouldn't it be cool to have, a live human helping you? I don't know. It's really, I don't know the answer. Like, it's going to be crazy these next few years.
Totally. Is the format of your coaching changing? Like you said, you had Discord groups. Is it still Discord? Is it more personal or online or
I don't really do any groups. I don't do any advertising. I do any marketing. I don't even have a website. I had a client make one, but I just sit with people Socratically like it's ancient Greece and I teach them. I sit with people one to one a couple times a week and I sit with them. And I've done it so long, I can see what they need and I know where to take them. I can see the gaps. Hard to teach that, but I've just coached so many hundreds of people that I can immediately understand the highest priority of what's holding them back. I just sit on Zoom with people, half an hour, go back and forth over chat. They send me everything. I look at every pixel. I want to see their chat flows, the responses, the rejections, hear their calls, look at their pitches, their proposals, the fine grain, all the stuff they don't get on the big cohorts when there's like 200 people on the call. And then I really try to customize it and I let them use my template. So if they're giving sales training, they can just deliver the one I did, which is really radical. But I'm not stood up like a Sandler training or Challenger or something like that.
Justin Michael, everyone? Where should people go if they want to catch up with you?
Yeah, so I'm on Amazon in a major way. You can get all my books there. I have another link to Seven Figure Formula. That's just an audio that you can buy off Amazon if you would prefer. You can find me on LinkedIn. Can't miss me.
LinkedIn, guys, Justin Michael. A lot of books, lots of knowledge. Great guy, Justin Michael. Thank you so much for your energy, your expertise, your wisdom. And please come back soon.
Thank you so much, Simon. Thanks, everyone.